Hello, people. El Paso has very many interesting individuals, and here we have a very good person that I've seen around for many years. Um, Carlos, how you doing?
Doing good.
The reason we want to go ahead and bring you here is because I had read your book, Seasons, and I thought it was really interesting and full of information that I had never even thought about. How did you gather all this information for this book?
Well, there's always the short version and the long version, and basically,
We got all day. Whatever time you
uh,
have, we got.
I, uh, I when I was a young man, I joined what's known as the Chicano movement,
Right.
and this was an effort of Mexican Americans, mainly young people, to assert an identity uh, in light of all the discrimination and the oppression that we were facing.
Right.
And we embraced the term Chicano. What we try to do is we try to change the context of uh, out of which we were being judged by the system or the establishment, as we used to call it,
Right.
so that you know the government didn't not only did it not know the word Chicano, it did not understand the word Chicano,
Right.
which means we had the power to define what that was. We also embraced this concept called Aztlan,
Mm.
which is a migration story in Mexican history. That's when the Aztecs went from north to south
Right.
and then led to the founding of Mexico City. And so we embrace that idea as a background for identity. And of course, all these terms, the government and the people we were fighting, they didn't understand, nor they couldn't turn the tables on us.
Was this at the height of the whole, like the whole 70s, 80s
Yeah,
movement?
this was in the 70s. It was
Oh.
mainly in the 70s.
Mm-hmm.
And But as a result of that, because all movements they peak and then they ebb.
Right.
As a result of that, many of us in the Chicano movement begin to look deeper into these ideas that we were throwing at the people we were fighting against.
Mm-hmm.
And then we discovered that the word Chicano has its linguistic roots in the word Mexica,
Right.
uh, and that Aztlan is an origin story that is very, if you look at it from a pre-Columbian basis, it's very significant to the history of Mexican people. And then we discovered something that we didn't know existed. In Up here in the United States, they call it the Red Road.
The Red Road?
The Red Road.
Okay.
And which means indigenous way of knowing, indigenous way of being.
Mm-hmm.
In Mexico, they call it la tradición.
Right.
And la tradición basically was the indigenous tradition of Mexico, which has always been there.
Mm-hmm.
But officially in 1948, the keepers of la tradición realized that it was time to come out and revive it.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, la tradición and the Red Road, what they are is a natural way of life
Mm-hmm.
that our ancestors passed on down the generations for thousands of years.
Mm-hmm.
And a natural way of life is simply what it says. It's a way of learning how to live in a natural way,
Right. The way your ancestors has always lived.
the way human beings were meant to live.
Mm-hmm.
As you know, we were not created as creatures to depend on machines or other things. Anyway, so we discovered another movement that had already started, and that was very very much in tune with a lot of the ideals of the Chicano movement.
Mm-hmm.
And this is it's called La Tradición,
Right.
and up here they call it the Red Road. Uh, so basically, um, when I got involved in La Tradición, which was in 1978, and I started, discovering boy, you guys have a vast body of knowledge, and it's very detailed. You cover nutrition, you cover medicine, you cover spirituality, all kinds of things.
Is this like in the United States, in Texas or in Mexico?
This is across the whole continent.
Okay.
This is across the whole
But
continent.
that you were learning from these
From
people.
Mexico.
Oh, okay.
Mexico.
Okay.
From the people in Mexico, traditional teachers in Mexico.
Right.
And at that time, I asked why was this body of knowledge kept, despite because it was an attempt to eradicate it. Up here in the United States, the government banned all kind of indigenous religious practices. In Mexico, all the way back to the Inquisition, where they would burn you alive at the stake. And I said, why was this preserved? And he says, well, and this was 78, 79 when I was being told this by the elders. They said, we know that a Western civilization is not a sustainable project, and it's going to collapse because it's not based on a natural way of life. And if our people are going to survive, they need this knowledge so they'll know what to do. And I said, well, when is this going to happen? And they said, you will see it in your lifetime.
Oh, damn.
I was 26 years old at the time, and what they said is true. So, on an individual basis, the tradition, la tradición, the Red Road, the natural way of life, has very practical applications when it comes to an individual. To be a sound body, sound mind, sound spirit. That has been, if you apply it, that has been very, very attractive to me.
What does it mean to be sound? Sound spirit, sound, just the way you said it right now.
The best thing I found is that if you look at nature without human interruption, you see nature has a flow. And nature, everything in nature is cooperative. And every form gives way to each other. And there are no foreigners in nature.
Right.
Okay. And so there's a flow in which you see a forest, or you see a desert, and it's alive, it's flowing. And when a human being is into that flow, you don't have disease. You don't have people going crazy with schizophrenia and depression and all of that. So it's basically being healthy of mind and body. That's what it is.
Oh, okay.
I am very glad that, at least on an individual level, I've been able to apply that to myself. When I came into La Tradición, I was a very unhealthy person.
Right. Did you feel unhealthy, or you were just mentally, physically?
Both.
Okay.
I was 240 pounds.
Oh, wow.
I was already developing a hunchback. I had arthritis. I had the beginning of arthritis, diabetes. I was beginning to develop thyroid problems.
Damn.
And then mentally, I had a very, very, very severe bouts with depression.
Oh, shit.
And so I had also been injured when I was 4 years old. I fell out of a moving car, landed on my skull, broke my skull, and I had a terrible back. That's why I was getting the hunchback. And all of that is gone now. It's gone today.
Because of these practices?
Because of the practices of a natural way of life.
Mm-hmm.
But la tradición, it's good that that you can apply it as an individual,
Right.
But the best thing is La Tradición requires community. It is meant to be applied in community because nature is community.
Right.
You know, you can't just take La Tradición and say, I'm going to just use it on myself and have this enlightenment experience because it won't work. In order to keep it, you got to share it.
Right. And when you say community, what exactly does that mean? You mean group of people around your neighborhood? Because these days it's hard to find community.
Well, you know, you've experienced a part of our community with Gisela and Dalanza.
Right.
They're part of our community.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We have a community here in El Paso who around these practices of a natural way of life. That's why the pyramid is a result of that effort. We constructed that pyramid.
Right. Oh, you were part of it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, wow, that was cool, man. I
Yeah.
didn't know that.
Yeah, we learned from the maestros in Mexico how to the pyramid isn't just a little building there.
Mm-hmm.
It was constructed in using the knowledge.
Oh, shit.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so that you can all kinds of things can happen inside that pyramid. It isn't just a little building there.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
Yeah, we started constructing it in 1988.
That's crazy. And is it just property or someone let you build it there? Or do you know whose property that is?
Well, when we made the decision to construct the pyramid, the first thing we called for was a ceremony.
Mm-hmm.
And we thought we had found some property where we were going to construct it, and we held the ceremony there.
Mm-hmm.
And it so happens that one of the elders, she was approached by this real estate lady if she wanted to buy some property nearby, and they went and looked at it, and she bought it right there on the spot, and she said, "This little acre of land is going to be dedicated for our community so that we can come and do ceremony here."
Oh, wow.
And a few months later, she died. And we held her funeral ceremony at that property. And the other land that we were going to acquire didn't work out. So we said, well, I guess this is where where it's intended.
Right.
So we checked it out, and sure enough, it was where that pyramid was meant to be. So the center of that pyramid is where that fire for her funeral fire was. For that,
yeah, there's a pit there, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Wow, I didn't know that. See, I'm new to El Paso. I just moved in 2001.
Okay.
So I don't know a lot of the people from back in the days, but I think it's a real good spot. I mean, it's right next to Waco tanks, peaceful, dark at night.
Well, more important, through that pyramid, there's a meridian, a special meridian that runs. The Earth has meridians, and that pyramid is built on a meridian. And it's a special meridian that divides the vibration of that Waco tanks area from the other mountains. If you see that two mountains are very different,
Yeah.
and that's because they represent two distinct geographical vibrations, and where they meet, where those two geographical vibrations meet, is right where the pyramid is at. And that's why, I mean, you can try this experiment yourself. You can go spend the night in the pyramid. If you cover everything so that you don't let any light in, you'll see sparks inside the chamber.
What the hell? Are you serious?
Yeah. We take people there for healings. I myself got healed there for my back because my back was really, it came to a point where I couldn't walk anymore.
Oh, damn.
And so I went there, and I can tell you, it works.
Yeah. Wow. So you went, like, how in what way did you go there to get healed? Did you go there with like a lady that knew plant medicine and?
No, 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 no. There's different ways to enter the pyramid.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. In my particular case, I just went there by myself, and I slept there that night.
Okay, right.
And up until that, this was several years ago. Up until that time, because of the way my back was so bad,
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't touch my toes without my legs starting to shake because of the of the compression.
Mm-hmm.
And I would get these. My back would go out, and oh my God, I'd spend weeks, sometimes months, just like in pain, and not being able to walk properly. So one day I just said, wait a minute, there's this pyramid, and I've seen people get healed there. Why don't you just go there? So I went, spend the night, and that night I had a dream in which I was touching my toes without any problem. And I said in my dream, well, I've never been able to do that. And this voice said, well, you can now. So when I woke up in the morning,
Are you serious?
now I can touch my toes without any problem. I can bend my back in ways that I could never bend it before.
Damn. You need to start learning how to do these healings without Western medicine, because Western medicine fixes one thing and you'll end up messed up with the other, and this is pretty incredible stuff that you're telling me. I never experienced anything close to that.
Well, this is what we discovered, what I discovered back in 78. I discovered a whole world that was like invisible. And now we've discovered this whole world across the continent. One of the things we did in 1992 was we developed a response to the 500th anniversary of the arrival of Columbus
Right.
by organizing what we call the Peace and Dignity Journeys.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a group of runners that gather in Alaska and southern Argentina, and then they run towards the middle.
Mm-hmm.
And in 1992, we did the first run, and then every 4 years we do the run.
Mm-hmm.
This year, we couldn't do it because of the COVID.
Right.
But every 4 years, these runners they started opposite sides of the continent, and they meet at a certain place. And last year they met in I think they met in Panama again. The time before that, for 2012 they met in Guatemala in Tikal.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, as we've done these runs across the Western Hemisphere, there's a whole network that has been developed across North and South America, and this revival of indigenous knowledge, of indigenous culture, is all over.
Mm-hmm.
It is all over, and the practices, the medicinal practices, the natural way of life,
Right.
is bubbling, it's percolating,
Mm-hmm.
and it's very, very clear that Western civilization is collapsing.
Yeah. Especially now. Crazy times. I never thought I would live times like these, where you have to stay home and the whole world is protesting. What do you think about George Floyd, man?
Well, all those things are symptomatic of the society that we live in.
Mm-hmm.
And we have to understand, or we need to understand that human beings many thousands of years ago went on two roads.
Right.
One road was the natural way,
Mm-hmm.
la tradición, in which we decided that we were going to cooperate with nature.
Mm-hmm.
We were going to be one more of nature's creatures.
Mm-hmm.
And Earth was mother. And the whole tradition, a whole set of knowledge developed around that. This is thousands of years ago.
Right.
But there was a minority of us who said, you know what? Instead of Earth being mother, let's turn her into property. Yeah. And that was a minority voice back then. But gradually over time, the people who advocated for Earth to be property have now dominate the world.
Mm-hmm.
But a long time ago, we were told if you go that path, that's a path of self-destruction. You cannot treat the earth as property
Right.
and flourish and survive. You can flourish and survive for a little while,
Mm-hmm.
but then, I use the analogy of ants on a leaf floating down a river,
Mm-hmm.
and the ants decide to eat the leaf. And at first, the leaf is big enough to where everything's okay, but eventually,
Yeah.
the leaf is gone and the ants drown, and that's what's happening to us. We cannot. Well, the scientists have told us. I don't know if you know of this.
Right.
The environmental scientists have told us by the end of this decade, the land will have turned into a desert, and most of the ice on the earth will have melted.
Mm-hmm.
And at that point, the earth will no longer be able to sustain human life the way we're used to now, because there's not going to be much food, there's not going to be much fresh water. The environment is going to change drastically.
Oh, man.
But see, I was told when I started in this, you will see this in your lifetime,
Mm-hmm.
and you will see the transition into the new world. But if you guys do what we're telling you, we've prepared everything for you. It just takes work.
Right.
Learn this, apply it,
Mm-hmm.
spread the news. You'll be okay.
Right.
And that's the message that I bring today.
Right. And when you were putting this book together, is it all knowledge just from one individual, or did you go out and?
No, in the tradition, there's it's always collective. It's always
Mhm.
group.
Right, like you said earlier.
And much of this knowledge comes from one of the 5 books that survived the book burnings of the
Wow.
in
The
its
Spaniards.
the Spaniards, and it's a codex that's England has it,
Right. Yeah.
and um, and it's basically how a human being ought to live his life, so that that human being can be in flow with nature.
Right.
Uh, it's a book about how to be born. It's a
Right.
book about how to die. It's a book about how to live. And it's just paying attention to the cycles that affect your life,
Mhm.
and being in flow with those cycles. It's pretty simple.
Right. I remember reading that you said it's best to shower from your feet up.
Well, one of the things that we don't know how to do is how to handle temperature,
Mm-hmm.
because we've created artificial temperatures,
Right.
air conditioning, heating and cooling.
Mm-hmm.
Well, see, the human body wasn't made to live with those kind of temperature regulations.
Right.
They're unnatural. So when we're outside in nature, and then we enter an air conditioned room, that's a temperature shock to the body,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and that weakens the immune system. It weakens the whole body, and it's like kind of like giving your immune system a punch,
Mm-hmm.
or a good kick every time you do those. And after a while, then your body doesn't know how to regulate the temperature between the natural and the unnatural. So we were not meant to shower with hot water.
Right.
Okay, and we were not meant to live in houses with air conditioning.
Mm-hmm.
Right? We know how to construct houses that don't need air conditioning.
Right.
Where I live, we don't use air conditioning,
Mm-hmm.
and we're just fine.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and I shower agua al tiempo. I shower with the water that comes out of the shower,
Even in the winter.
even in the winter.
Wow, that's crazy.
But you see, we think like even in the winter. You know, what do you think people did in the winter back
Sure.
then?
But I mean, I'm sure they had sprigs or stuff like that where
Well,
it's
of course, but
naturally
that's
heated.
the key. That's the key. Nature will provide spots like that,
Right.
and it's okay. But see, they're not meant to for you to go there every day. See? It's a periodic engagement with those types of spring. It's a special occasion for the body, and that heat is natural.
Right.
It isn't fuel. See, think about where things come from, like this microphones and the lights in here. Where is all this energy coming from? You don't even think
From
about
a
it.
plant
It
somewhere.
okay, but from a plant. And how does that plant generate the energy?
Burning fuels and
Yes,
stuff.
it has to consume Mother Earth.
Right.
And once Mother Earth gets consumed, there's no renewables in that. They can just recycle burnt stuff and make new energy.
Right.
That becomes waste.
Yeah.
And that's why we've disrupted the climate. That's why we've disrupted the Mother Earth, because we take and we are basically just like those ants. We're gobbling up the leaf without realizing that eventually the leaf is going to be gone and we're going to drown. And so all this energy depends on a system that involves destruction of the very home that you live in. Does that make sense?
Very much so.
See?
Yeah. It's scary. It's crazy times. Like
It doesn't have to be scary. Our ancestors gave us a way. They
but we
showed us.
don't now have access to that. We live in a world where they want us to forget all that, right? They don't assimilate into this culture or whatnot.
The people who make a living and who make a profit out of destroying the earth, of course not. You know, they want to continue to make a profit. And so that's why the oil companies, the gas companies, the technology companies, they resist. They resist anything that will endanger their status on the earth. But they've also made the rest of us dependent on that system.
Right.
And because they tell us, well, don't you want gasoline for your car? Don't you want electricity for your AC? And then we say, well, yeah, well, there you go. We're providing it for you. So if we stop, then you're going to have a cold room in winter and you're going to have a hot room in summer, and you're not going to be able to do interviews on microphones anymore. And so everybody says, oh, yeah, you know, we can't. So then they start thinking about other ways, but we don't start looking into the natural ways that we were given by our ancestors.
Yeah, and I'm a believer that Mother Earth does provide everything that you need, even sound amplification. I mean, I don't think we need all these cables. When I went to Teotihuacan, we got there early in the morning because we took the bus there. We got there like at 4 in the morning to Mexico, the F.A. And instead of going to sleep, we took the first bus to Teotihuacan. We were the first ones there. As soon as it opened, it was like 6 a.m. There was like 3 people there, and all of Teotihuacan, and the artesano that was there is like, man, you guys are privilegiados. Let me show you something. And we went to the court. I don't know if you've been to Teotihuacan, but as soon as you go in, there's like this big court with like some temples, and in the back there's like another temple. Well, in the middle of that huge court, he told my cousin to stand there, and him and me went to the farthest corner. I mean, he looked this big. He was far. He's like, when I put my hand up, I want you to talk like if we were next to you. Don't yell. This is a place of ceremony. He said, don't yell. Talk like if you were talking to someone right next to you. And you could hear him right here, bro. Like right here. Like it was natural amplification. I was amazed. I'm like,
Yeah. Yeah.
there was no way they could have built this thing and be like, okay, a ver, di algo. No, it didn't work. Let's try it again. And it had to work the fucking first time. And it's like, how is that savages? How is that people that were ignorant? This was even before the Mexica. The Mexica found that place as a ruin. And it's like, if Mother Nature can do this, what can't she do for us? I don't, do we really need cables to accomplish what we need? I mean, like the Mexica calendar or the Mayan calendar, whatever, has all the orbits of the world. But they never found one of these things for them. Like, how the hell do they know what's going on up there without the equipment that we need these days to figure that out? You know what I mean?
Well, it's all rather simple. The tradition has a system of knowledge of how to observe nature and how to observe the systems of nature that are visible and how to observe the systems in nature that are invisible,
Right.
that are not visible to the naked eye. And when you make these observations, then you construct this body of knowledge, which is what they gave us.
Mm-hmm.
And that body of knowledge is still here today. It's with us. That's our power. That's our power if we want it.
Right. It's just, sometimes I want to start learning about all this because it seems almost magical. Because I was also, I don't know where I heard, but I think he told me that or something, but that they had found tracks of people walking, and then all of a sudden they would stop, and then they would see them like miles away again. And supposedly they were saying that people knew how to, I guess, I don't know, fly or elevate or float or what do you think of stuff like that when people claim? I've even heard of indigenous maestros say that on a certain day for a certain amount of time, the indigenous people were able to float for a certain amount of time. Have you heard anything about this?
Well, the important thing about that is, first of all, not to get too focused on that, because that is part of the body of knowledge,
Right.
but it requires a lot more time to
Right.
get into those things.
Right.
The first thing is to begin and keep it simple.
Mm-hmm.
Learn to apply the natural way of life to yourself and share it with your community. Those things that you're talking about do happen. I've experienced them. I've seen them. They've happened.
You've seen this?
Yes, they've happened at the pyramid. But those are that's not the essence of the tradition.
Mm-hmm.
Those are part of the tradition.
Right.
But if you just go around just looking for the magic, you're not gonna find it, because the magic begins by you entering the natural way of life.
Right.
Then the magic begins by you eating what you're supposed to be eating.
I guess the magic is the power of the mind, basically, to make your mind powerful enough to be able to do this, maybe.
Well, I just gave you an example of. If you want to experience supernatural phenomena, go to that pyramid.
Right.
Spend the night. Cover all the openings so that no light comes in, so it is pitch black.
Right.
And there it is. You'll be there.
You'll see the energies.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy. And I have been there, and it does feel very relaxed when you're there. Oh man, this mic's in my face. It does feel very relaxed, like you're a place of serenity, and I don't know. I'm very anxious, and when I was there, like I felt relaxed. I felt safe somehow. Like there was nothing that was gonna hurt me there.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And it was it was a pretty calm experience that I've never felt, but I didn't know that you could see energies in there and all that. That's crazy, man. Um, what do you think of the Egyptian pyramids? Also, that they say that they weren't really tombstones, that they were, um, well, I guess energy plants to bring energy down from the iosphere.
Well, in general, what I'll say is that pyramid technology is part of the tradition.
Right.
I do a workshop on pyramid technology.
They're on streams too, or meridians or whatever, right?
Yes, you're right.
All over the world too,
Yes,
connected.
yeah, and that's scientific.
Mm-hmm.
That's scientific.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's knowing how to tap into those meridians through knowing the geometry of pyramid building,
Right.
and we do that. We do workshops on pyramid building, and all the participants get to build a little pyramid and experience the energy flow from the pyramid.
Right. What do you think about the need to learn Nahuatl? Do you think we should rescue that language, or it doesn't really matter, or because I mean it's being lost quick?
Na- Nahuatl is a vibration. It's a vibrational language.
Mm-hmm.
So when you use it, you're automatically tapping into the vibration of the ancestors.
And why does
It's not being lost, it's being revived. In fact, there's courses all being offered all over for people to learn how to speak it.
Is there some here in El Paso?
It's online.
It's online.
I can send you the link. But we have a school where we have English, Spanish, and Nahuatl in Las Cruces. It's a charter school.
Oh shit, for real?
Yeah, it's called Raíces del Saber Shinachli Community School. He's on the board. He's one of the founders.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so we teach children the three languages. So they learn how to read the calendar in Nahuatl, and how to sing in Nahuatl, and use Nahuatl.
What do you mean how to read the card? They show them how to read indigenous letters or whatever it's called. I don't want to say hieroglyphs because it sounds kind of primitive, but
Well, hieroglyphs is just another language.
is
It's a more complex language than letters.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
The written Nahuatl is more complex than using letters,
Yeah.
because it involves image, color, and position.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, even colors mean stuff, huh? Means
Yes.
have certain meanings. That just seems so hard to learn. And that they teach you that in that school, how to read that type of.
We teach them, yes.
Wow, that's crazy.
Well, we're not the only school. There's many. The tradition is gone all over. It's all over.
Mm-hmm.
It's when I started, you could hardly find people in it. Now you can find traditionals in every city.
Yeah. I've heard of this Nahuatl professor, but he was from LA. And that's who I would visit sometimes when I would go to LA. Let me tell you something, man. What do you feel of the movements now? Of the whole social justice warriors, and do you think it's headed the right direction? The way like these people, these like Mecha now here in the United States, or I feel that they have lost. Because I was in Mecha recently, and I would go to the regionals, and it basically, I mean, I'm not saying there's nothing wrong with it, but it mostly became like this whole feminist movement, basically, right? Where it's mostly about your gender, my pronoun, call me this, call me that. And it's not that I don't agree with that, because I mean, I agree with happiness and equality for everyone, no matter what you decide to do or be. But I also believe that as a movement, you have to have a goal, right? Not just whatever comes along, whatever the hell we have to protest, we'll protest. Nah, to me, that's deviating from your goal. I mean, I think you should have a goal and you should shoot for that. And I don't think Mecha is doing that anymore. I think they have just, oh, I mean, a bunch of privileged kids, to be honest, that are mad for some reason for personal issues, and they join Mecha or whatever. But it's not like the way I hear about it in the 70s and 80s. How didn't Mecha del Paso start like the whole cultural studies in universities and stuff like that?
Well, in Mecha and El Paso did the building takeovers in 1971, and they had those arrests. Uh, you had literally dozens of students arrested, and out of that, you had the establishment of Chicano studies.
Right.
And the thing about maybe what you're referring to is that uh, people in social movements, they're very stuck on defining themselves of what particular group they're from. You know, LGBTQ, uh, Chicano, Chicana, you know, the issue of feminism, all those. It's like it's important for people to bring out their group, you know. And the thing about and it's dialogue is always good and protest is always good, but again, I take you back to the original problem, which is Western civilization.
Right.
Western civilization is la tradición is based on nature, on the reality of nature. Western civilization is based on an abstract idea.
Right.
Somebody, you know, thought of an idea. And so everything in Western civilization revolves around abstract ideas. And when somebody comes up with an idea, nobody ever says, is that in line with the natural way? Is that in line with the way things work on the earth, with the way things work on the universe?
Right.
No, people say, no, it doesn't matter. What goes on in nature doesn't matter. What's important is my idea. So, if you look at nature and the diversity of nature, everything has a flow and everything gives way to each other. And what we want to do is we want to create identities that are set, that are concrete, that don't budge, as a way of protection. And so we're constantly arguing about abstract ideas without thinking about what does that mean in nature? What does that mean in terms of what you're supposed to eat, the way you're supposed to live?
Right. The implications that come from your invention, basically. Like, how is it going to affect the world, humanity, and everything in it? Yeah, they don't care about that, man. They just want to put everything, the product out there to start making the money, the feria, what we like to call. But yeah, I don't know, man. Like I said, I really do think that movements are not headed in the right direction. When I joined the movement, I had these views. Like, I remember before I even knew about Mecha, I had met this friend that is like, oh man, you have to meet this group of people. We gotta find the machistas, these guys and these guys. I was like, what? I pictured like this group of soldier-like intellectuals that just wanted the best for their people. And then I joined it, and it was nothing like that, man. It was nothing like that. It was just very communist, and if you don't, you're that. Like, I remember we went around the table and we had to introduce ourselves and tell them what we wanted to be called, right? So, like, I could have chosen anything like a gender or ziz or zay or whatever. And I don't have a problem with that. But I also think that part of the problem is the government trying to decentralize the families, right? That's how you break cultures apart. You decentralize the family because that's the power structure of the whole culture, right? You have strong families, you keep your culture strong. You mess up the families, you you mess up the culture of those people, right? And I mean, we've been seeing how men are more lazy, we're more ignorant, we are drug addicts, we're most likely to be in jail. Um, Women are tired of men because most men are violent towards women. I mean, we live in a very messed up world where I think MK Ultra and stuff like that has something to do with it. I believe they figured it out how to separate the families, right? Mess up the people, make men gay, feminize them, and we have been seeing that. We've seen, I mean, throughout time, we are seeing more people that are claiming to be part of this community, right? LGBT, whatever, LGBTQ or whatever. And I'm not saying that. You don't think that they're doing that to us, man?
Well, but again, when you start talking about they and us, who is they and how many of them are there?
Well, who is they, right? Yeah, let's talk about who is they. The Western people that you say, right? I mean, the owners of these corporations, the owners of Hollywood, the owners of the movie theaters, movies of record labels. You don't think it all works together to try to do what they're doing?
Well, the world is not a plot. Okay, the world is not run by a committee that gets together on a weekly basis and say, "This is the way we're going to."
But they're trying to, though. No, I mean, why? I mean, if you were a billionaire, a trillionaire, and me too, why wouldn't we get together to dominate the rest? Why not? And there's only a few of us. Why not? If we own 90% of the products, the movies, the channels, the culture, basically, right? Why can't we engineer it in such a way where we can destroy these people's families?
Well, namely because we get together. People get together on their common interest. Okay, and so the economies of the world are all based on some kind of cooperation between people who are the owners and the money makers in this civilization. But we have to consider that a billionaire, as well as myself, we both have to use the restroom. Right. We both have to eat. We both drink water. And we're both susceptible to the same kind of vulnerabilities that everybody else is.
Right.
And so, like within a family who live together and whose interests are very, very clear, you never get the cooperation of the family cooperating and moving along at the same pace. You get a lot of conflict, you get a lot of arguments.
Right.
So if you want to get the billionaires of the world together, you can get them together, but they're not going to come together and have a clear plan to engineer the world. What they have is they have a vision that they follow. They have a concept. They have an idea that they follow. And they're very loyal to this idea. Like Bill Gates and the Koch brothers. You know, Bill Gates is a Democrat. Right. The Koch brothers are Republicans. Okay? The Koch brothers, is their view of democracy is essentially fascism. Bill Gates' view of democracy is liberal democracy. But what unites them is the economic model upon which the world is based. But politically, they come together, they're not going to agree because one wants to engineer the world a certain way, the other one wants to have the world a different way, and they're not going to agree. So instead, they set aside those differences and just follow the economic model that both of them can agree. The economic model is private property, is to perpetuate private property and to perpetuate the exploitation of private property and to market private property and to have all these people. They don't want people unhealthy and crazy. They want people like more or less okay so they can buy their products, so they can make them, they can sustain their wealth. Without the masses of people, Bill Gates and the Koch brothers, they'll run out of money. They'll run out of wealth because you won't have the masses of people buying into their system. They're invested in having people, follow their market vision. They're not invested in controlling to every minute detail what these people do, because that control would go against their market vision, their what they have in common.
How so, though?
Because when the way the economics of private property works, it's based on diversity. It's not, if you have control, if you have uniformity, then you just give everybody the same bar of soap, you give everybody the same kind of food, you get, there's no market. All there is just, strict control, like what you had in maybe what Russia was trying to attempt to do, and failed. When you try to engineer and control society, the way that the socialist bloc tried for decades, it fails. It fails. The Russians, the Soviets, they had what you call, they had a group engineering millions of people in their society. And what that did is that just weakened them and they collapsed. So you can't, when you have a market vision, you can't have tight, uniform control over people because it goes against your very interest. In what one of the dangers that we, in my opinion, one of the dangers we can fall into is begin falling into conspiracy theories. Because the world doesn't run on conspiracy theories. The world runs right now, as it is, on the vision of private property. And everybody is invested in that vision. Whether it's the poorest guy or the richest guy. The poorest guy is invested because he thinks if he works hard enough, if he just does enough thing, he'll get his share of the golden egg. And the guy who's a billionaire, he wants to keep his share of the golden egg.
Right.
But we're all invested in the same vision, and that's a problem. When somebody breaks away from that vision, then they become a threat. Okay? For example, in society today, among social movements, when you have traditionals like myself start espousing these ideas, pretty soon, I tell my friends, I don't have air conditioning. They say, you're crazy. And these are people who are left-wing, people who want to overthrow the government, okay? They want to adjust society, and they think the government is militaristic, and they want to overthrow it. But when I say, you know what, I don't use air conditioning, they said, that's crazy. Why is that crazy? Why am I a threat to these people? Now, if I told Bill Gates I don't have air conditioning, he would tell me I'm crazy too.
Right.
You see, because what I'm doing is I'm deviating from the property model. And whether you're a socialist or a fascist, okay, you're invested in the property model. The people across the continent, many of us are getting away from the property model. And right now, the greatest repression that's falling down, it's not against black people in the United States. The greatest repression that's falling down across this continent are on the indigenous people who are backing away from the property model. The people who are defending the rainforest in Brazil, they're being assassinated. This year alone in Mexico, 13 ecological warriors have been assassinated. Because all of us, we represent a backing away from the property model. That's what really threatens the system. Everybody else is invested in this property model. The socialists want the property to be distributed equally among people. The other side, they want the property for themselves and only market it out to the rest of us. But it's all the same thing. You tell a fascist or a socialist that the earth is your mother, and they'll tell you you're crazy.
Yeah. And so, what is the end game to you as a movement person, right? Like, what would you like to happen or start happening to our people as a community? Like, what if you were president or whatever? what would you start doing, or what would you like to do to start helping out?
I am doing it.
Right,
I am
but
doing
more though.
More?
You are doing it. I agree. That's why we wanted to bring you here.
I couldn't. I don't think I can do any more than what I'm doing. It's not up to me. It's not up to one individual. That's the other thing about Western civilization. Western civilization is based on heroes and individuals.
Right.
Individuals make history. When you read history, it's all about who discovered this, who wrote that. When you look at natural history, there are no individuals. It's all collective. It's all a group.
But don't you think that the masses need some type of leader to lead them on, to like basically say we can do this, right? We can gather up and accomplish our goal together. You don't think that the people need some type of leader? Not leader, but
that type. See, but again, that model is a Western model of leadership. How does nature lead? When the leader of the wolf pack leads, what is his position in line when they go someplace?
The very back.
Exactly.
And the very front.
No.
Yeah, there's one in the front, one in the
No,
back.
the one in the front, that's the weakest. That's the weakest. This is the weakest wolf in the pack.
I thought the weakest were in the middle.
No, the weakest are at the very front.
Oh, okay.
Because nature never moves faster than the weakest part of their community. When birds migrate, the leaders, they fly in the back.
Yeah, I know.
Okay. And so the Zapatistas, that's what they say. They said, we lead by following. That's their motto. We lead by following. That's a kind of leadership model that we need.
Right.
Not the leader that's in front. That's Western. Because what happens with that model is that they know what to do. The system knows what to do. They kill them, they eliminate them, or they buy them off, and that's it. But when you lead from the back, it's hard.
Right.
Because the people, the movement has no investment in leadership except at the rear. And that kind of leadership can be replaced a lot faster than leadership that's at the front. It's a different way of thinking. It's a natural way of thinking.
Do you think that we're educated enough to know how to move around in that type of thinking?
We have it in each and every individual to be able to do that. It's just a matter of doing it. We've already begun to do it. Across this continent, we've already begun to do it. I can show you examples of movements and all kinds of people. We've already begun the motion. And those of us that are kind of like louder than others, were being targeted and assassinated.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and but the thing is they're not gonna be able to stop us for this reason. Their system is collapsing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And it's collapsing to a degree that they can't stop it. And it's collapsing and they don't know what to do. Bill Gates and the Koch brothers do not know what to tell the people what to do uh, at the end of this decade. At the end of this decade, the ecology of this earth is going to collapse. The scientists have told us that. If you ask Bill Gates about it, or if you ask the Koch brothers about it, neither of them know what to tell the people. Okay, you know who knows? Our ancestors. We've already been told this is what you need to do. We already know what we need to do. We don't have to go ask Bill Gates or the Koch brothers. We already know what it's called la tradición, or the red road. This is what we need to do. Now, whether we do it or not, that's entirely up to us.
That's what I'm saying. Like, how are we gonna get people to learn, not just follow it, but even learn about this La Tradición?
Well, you're doing your part right now.
Well, we are exactly right. That's what I'm trying to do. That we're all trying to do that. We're all trying to educate the best that we can to the group that our target audience or whatever. I say whatever, whoever though, but because we're all in this shit together, man. But it's just hard because don't you feel you're working against this force that wants everything you say and everything you know to be erased?
There's a force greater than that force.
There is.
And that's the force of nature. That's the force of creation. The force of creation is much greater than whatever force Bill Gates and the Koch brothers can put together.
So you think this is just going to start happening naturally because it's nature?
Yes.
Hopefully, because it's scary. You know what I mean? It's scary because, I mean, my sister just had a little baby, my niece, and it's like, damn, what's...
Those are great motivators. Those are great motivators to enter a different world.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. What do you mean enter a different world? To enter a different way of thinking and look for this, la tradición? Is that what you're trying to say?
Nature's there.
Mm-hmm.
The earth is there.
Mm-hmm.
If you approach the earth as her child, then the earth will embrace you. If you approach the earth as somebody who wants to exploit and destroy her, then the earth is going to reject you.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a matter of whether we want to accept the illusion of freedom that technology gives us, or we want to accept the reality of freedom which the earth offers.
Mm-hmm.
The earth is there.
Mm-hmm.
And the earth is not going to go away for a long, long time.
We'll go away first before the earth goes away.
Yeah.
So I'm still not clear about this. Do you want this continent to go back the way it was 500 years ago? Is that your movement? Do you want to expel the Europeans out of this country? 'Cause, I mean, the Spanish were colonized for 500 years by the Moors, right? I mean, so why can't we do it? I mean, it's a possibility. And how come a lot of our people have forgotten the colonization, right? They've forgotten that it's almost like a race, not a race, but a struggle to better your people, right? And why aren't we in this struggle? Why aren't we trying to better ourselves together as a people? right? The whites are doing it. All these other people are doing it. Why have we forgotten about that? About being better as a community, about loving each other, helping each other out, seeing each other as brothers and sisters, and not just as some other Mexicano or ese way. Or why?
We haven't forgotten it.
You see, most people, they don't even care about it. We
Well,
don't even care about each other anymore.
I don't think you've taken a survey of most people around.
You don't take a survey, but you do live around these people. I mean,
And what I see in people, what I see in most people, is a struggle to exercise their humanity.
Right.
And there's a lot of obstacles against that. And most people do the best they can. Most people are doing the best they can. Maybe not the best they should, or maybe not the best that you would like them to, but just out of everybody is trying to exercise their humanity. The thing is that how do we support that? How do we encourage that? It's there and it's happening. Humans have never given up their humanity. It's just that we're lost in a world of abstract thinking, and a world that was created by abstract ideas, and therefore it has no sustainability. An idea is not sustainable because it's an image in your head. See, a tree is sustainable because it has roots, and it breathes the air and it nourishes from the sun. An idea has no roots. An idea has nothing. So when you project an idea into the world, then it becomes something destructive to reality. When you say, I'm going to get rid of all this plant life here so we can build buildings, that's an idea. That's a destructive idea. But it doesn't mean that the earth gives up her ability to grow trees. It just means that you've interrupted that ability on this particular place. And the same is with people. People don't give up what we were created to be. But the world of illusion that we've created, we've placed all these obstacles in front of us. And it's kind of like we're confused about what we're supposed to do. But we still struggle. We still say, no. I know that this is not who I am. I know that this is not who I'm supposed to be. And I'm gonna try and be who I'm supposed to be. Sometimes we are destructive with that, and sometimes we build really beautiful things with that. Especially artists. Especially artists. I really admire when an artist put their beauty on canvas or whatever. That's what they're saying. This is who we are, and I don't want to give it up.
Right. Yeah. I'm going back to the whole movement thing here in El Paso or everywhere, basically. You believe? Do you think that the way movements are operating these days is right? That it's good? You don't think that a bunch of them don't? I've noticed. I'm just gonna tell you what I saw. Right when I was in there, I noticed a bunch of people pretending to care about the people, but they mostly cared about themselves, and they used the movement as a way to make themselves cool, I guess. I don't know how to put it in words, but kind of make themselves unique and more likable, I guess. Whenever I see that, I mean, I love the danzas and all that, but I mean, I don't know about dancing in front of like um, an opening business, dancing in front of a restaurant, and I don't even know if those dances are real, and if I just don't know how real people are in the movements. You know what I mean? Like the whole Lincoln Center when they were chaining themselves up. I mean, why? I mean, people are. You go around the community in Central, and you'll be like, "Oiga, ¿qué piensa usted del Lincoln Center?" And I guarantee 80% of the people, I love chingada con esa cosa. I need to go to work. I need to make money. I need to. The things that our people are struggling for, we're not chaining ourselves. We're not. I mean, I could see why people wanted to rescue that building, but it's just a building. It's just a building to me. I mean, to me, we have a hierarchy of values, right? I mean, you don't go out looking for a video game when you don't even have shoes, right? When you're out there looking for a video game and you don't have shoes, where your hierarchy of values are off. And that's how I see the movement, right? When our people are struggling elsewhere, and we're over here trying to chain ourselves to save a building that was built in a racist mode. And we want to keep that, and we chain ourselves to it. And I don't know how real that is, man. I mean, I don't know how real we really want to save the people, or we really want to save the buildings and the abstract image of what our people were. What do you think about that? Am I wrong? Am I just being selfish, or am I just being crazy?
You're being pessimistic.
Explain that word to me, please.
Well, you're. It's like you're looking at a glass with water, and you're saying it's half empty rather than it's half full.
Mm-hmm. So what does that do for our people then? Chaining yourself to a building, that's really not going to help nobody. Really, it really isn't. I believe that what they wanted to do, build that whole relief from the freeway, I think it would have helped, but what is this chaining ourselves to this object, this building gonna do for our people?
Well, the demand was for that building to be used as community services, and not to it's a historic building, and it was going to be used the demand was for it to be used for services, rather than just destroy it, to promote more Western development, the more of the freeway. It's a way of saying to the system, no, we just can't let you run rampant and pave roads all over the place. We need to pay attention to human needs.
Exactly. Human needs. Humans need to get to work. I mean, I'm not saying that this system is right, but we are playing the game, right? I mean, if you sit down and play Monopoly, I'm not saying that it's right, but you are playing it. You are participating in it. Why not win? That's how I see that, right? I mean, we do live in this city. There is a major problem on the freeway. It's built wrong, and they need to alleviate it. Freeways being slow can cause stress, and that can cause diseases. I just think it was a lot of manpower for. In my reality, it was nothing. I mean, a building can be built anywhere and used for what you want it to be built, right? For good stuff, whatever the hell. They need really all that manpower to save that one particular building. Right? Whenever they did the whole Occupy thing, the movement. And I saw some girl just one girl get arrested because she didn't want to leave the park in San Jacinto, and they were like, yeah, yeah. What is that gonna do? Why not organize intelligently and start educating our people to start running for offices, start encouraging politicians, start lobbying, start all this other stuff that I think would be more successful, right? Instead of just yelling, protesting, and chaining ourselves to a building that's there right now, and it's just really a nice eyebrow and an eyesore still. But I don't know. I don't know, man. Anything else you want to tell us? I just feel like a bad person for thinking that, but I want to see more. I want to see, fuck that building, man. Let's try to raise the minimum wage. Just try to create jobs in the communities. Let's try to convince the people to buy locally from the stores instead of just trying to, I don't know, save stuff that's really not going to do nothing for the people.
Well, you have a very strong opinion about that.
I do, and I've lost a lot of friends because I've expressed that's the other thing about the movement too, right? I started, and as long as you believe what the movement believes, they're good with you. They're friends. You're cool. But if you ever start questioning anything that they're doing, they stop talking to you. Everyone stopped talking to me. I used to be cool with everyone in the movement. And now everyone just stopped talking to me because I've expressed my opinions towards that Lincoln Center. And I mean, I thought in the movement we were supposed to be all inclusive, right? No matter what your thoughts are, as long we all have to work together to accomplish the goal. Not, you don't think the way I do, you're bad. Get out of here. This is not the place for you. And it was very sad when that happened, Because it's like, here's the people that I had started to found community in. I was going to those marchas with Carlos Marantes and all that, and just because I expressed my opinion, everyone just stopped talking to me, man. Like, if I don't want to help, like if I had evil thoughts on helping the people, and I'm like, no, man, I just wish we could focus on more important things before we focus on these buildings,
Mm-hmm.
Our hierarchy of values. What do you value the most? This building, or for your people to educate themselves, learn, eat, feed their families, live in a nice house, in a nice home, and that's to me what comes first. Until that is met, then I think we could worry about saving our buildings or whatever. Which I don't even think that's our building, man. I mean, that was just a building. And wasn't that for black people first, though? Wasn't that a school for blacks?
No, you're talking about Douglas.
Oh, that was Douglas? I thought it was Lincoln Center, too. That it was more for black people at first. And then later on, Mexican people started going to that. But I don't know much about that place, but do you know what's going to be done with it? I mean, they're going to open it for useful purposes, or there's no plans?
I don't know what the plans are right now.
There's still no plan? Damn. So you don't agree with me then, man? You think that was a right thing to do? And with the manpower that was used?
Well, that wasn't my daughter who changed herself to so.
No, I'm not saying, I mean, it wasn't just one person. It was many people. You know what I mean?
I know, but she was one of them.
And I'm not judging one particular person, and I'm not saying one person is wrong. But
Well, everybody's doing the best they can,
are we though?
and so
You don't think a lot of times there's best we can do, but we're scared because we're privileged and we don't want to lose that privilege. So we don't really do what we can. We do what we can just enough to stay comfortable in our position of privilege.
well, I'm sure that's true. But thing is, we have to say, what am I doing?
Mm-hmm.
What am I doing today to advance what I believe in?
Right.
And
But
and
don't you also have to say what is the most optimal way to get to that goal?
well, as long as you're involved, as long as you're doing it.
See, I don't think that's the case. I don't think as long as you're doing it, I think you have to tactically do the right stuff, not just whatever comes along. We're going to protest this, let's protest that, let's protest this, because nothing ever gets done, because you're all over the place. There's no set agenda, there's no set goal in any of the movements that I've seen here in El Paso. I mean, they're all deviating. They're all just want to help whatever. And that's cool. That's cool, right? If that's your goal, my goal is to not have a goal, to just help whoever needs help, whoever needs manpower or people power, whatever. Um, I just believe that we could try harder, but we're scared. We're scared to really. I mean, we're not gonna go and do what the Mechistas in 1970s did, because I think we've reached a level of comfort that we don't want to lose, and I include myself in there. You know what I mean? We all want to reach comfort and security, and I don't think we are doing what we can do. I think a lot of us, a lot of people just use the movement to for self interest, right? We have self traumas that we grew up with, and self like anger and all these problems that come up with us as children. And when we grow up, we're mad, we're rebellious, we're angry, and I think most people just, I don't know, man. I don't know. I feel I'm talking too much, but I would like to see us care about each other more and I don't really know how to say it. Just care about our basic needs more first, right? As a people, as a community, as a I don't know, an enterprise maybe. Like we have to. I don't know, man. Anything else you want to say before we leave? I already talked too much.
No, well, I'm not involved in the political struggles here in this area. My main focus is on the tradition.
The tradition.
Yeah, and supporting the efforts of the community to promote a natural way of life, and that's what I know of. You know, I can tell you what's going on with that. I can tell you the activities and all the things that we do, and you know, people like Carlos Marentes, people like Sunrise El Paso, all those people, they're not really, we don't really involve ourselves with them. So I don't have much to say about that political.
What is Sunrise El Paso? I haven't even heard of them. Is that a new movement?
That's one of the many movements that's here in El Paso.
I never heard of them. Nah, and they've been here for a long time.
Oh, they've been here like maybe, I would say, a couple of years.
Oh, okay, never mind. Yeah, I've been out for a while, man. Since I was probably blind like 2 years already. So, well, I think everything that you shared with us is very fascinating. I did find your book, like I said, fascinating and interesting, and I would want everyone to read it because I mean, like you said, we do need this this knowledge to come back so we could live as humans, right? We've always lived, and I do believe that there's certain ways of doing things, right? I don't believe we're all just cavemen or chimps just doing whatever the hell we want. And even them have a natural rhythm and laws and basically a way of living that they follow. You know what I mean? It's humanity that's mostly running rampant, going crazy, just doing whatever we want. But because we're ignorant of this, we're ignorant that there's things that we should do, ways that we should act, and hopefully our people and everyone can start becoming more interested in these types of topics, so we could, like you say, live healthier with a healthier mindset and more love for ourselves and for the world. You know, I want to thank you, Carlos, for coming out and having a conversation with us. We hope to see more books from you. Hopefully, you could get inspired to get some new books out there, maybe at least one more.
All right.
Right? Do you feel you could, you have one more book in you?
Probably have several.
That would be great. Well, anything else, man? Anything else you want to share? Where we could buy your books, where you have a website, you could be found, anything, Instagram, Facebook, anything like that, where you could be reached in case people want to go in and ask you questions. Or
Well, if you want to look into our school website, raicesdelsaber.org, and but I would encourage anyone who wants to find a group in your locality and start participating in the tradition
right,
with traditional groups. I think that's where it's at.
right. And where can we find your books? Where can we?
Amazon.com.
Amazon. They're sold there. Do you have it in the audiobook version or no?
No.
Not yet?
No.
You should do an audiobook, man. Cause like me, right? Like
Yeah.
I can't read right now, so I do a lot of audiobooks. That's what I'm doing. So that would be badass. Do you know how you could do that? Like, put it on audio and put it like on.
Yeah, I know how to do that.
You should try it, because there's people like me that I'm pretty sure would want to read your book, you know?
Muy bien.
All right, well, thanks, Carlos, and hope to see you do better in the future, and I want to go ahead and, I don't know how to say it, man. Yo sé más español. Spanish was my first language, so sometimes English, I'm like, oh shit, how do you say that word? But hope you're successful in all your endeavors in the future, Carlos. Thank you.
Gracias.
Thank you, everybody, and thanks for listening. Bye-bye.